Good afternoon, everyone. Can you put your hands up, please, if you prefer organic food? Oh, not very good. I'm awfully sorry, but I thought there'd be about 50% of people here that would like organic food. Well, let me tell you, if you are an organic food user, you are actually inadvertently damaging the environment by a considerable extent. Take it back to the start, before we ever invented farming. Farming's a very, very recent invention. Man has been on the planet about 200,000 years, and we've only been farming for about the last 4,000 or 5,000. Up till then, we were something called hunter-gatherers. We were almost living with nature, going around picking our nuts off the trees and our berries and our odd little grass heads, and wasn't it wonderful? And then someone, and it was probably a woman, I have to tell you, discovered that if you took a head of wheat and instead of eating it, put it in the ground, you produced about 5 heads of wheat. And they said, well, this is a bloody good idea. Why don't we stay here rather than wandering all over the country looking for stuff? Let's grow the stuff where we live. Great idea. And then some other Burke invented the plough, and he started ploughing up land, destroying the natural ecosystems, burying and killing slugs and worms, destroying organic matter by ploughing in it, and by oxidation releasing nutrients into the environment. Gosh. And also that meant that area was then effectively down to a monoculture, because you only wanted to grow wheat, you didn't want other weeds in there, so you started monocultures. The result is here today before you, thousands and thousands of people. So organic farming went on to a large extent until around about 1910, 1920, when people started working out that actually you could make a lot more food off smaller areas if you put fertilizer on and pesticides and fungicides and all sorts of other things. Now that's great because it means we use less land, but unfortunately the world population has caught up with us. There were 1 billion people on the planet in the year 1900. In 100 years, we went from 1 billion to very nearly 7 billion, 7 times as many. So we're destroying ecosystems all over the world, including the Amazon rainforests, so we can produce food for ourselves. Agriculture, by definition, is an enormously damaging way of living on our planet. So I recommend all of you to go back to being hunter-gatherers. You might all starve to death, mind you, doing it, but that's fine. Of course, there might be a halfway house in which you say, well, hang on, I'm going to go organic farming. I'll do that. Well, that's okay, except that we do know that organic farming is a terribly inefficient use of land. And it's land that we're short of. You're reducing your yields by definition by about 30%. So for every 2 acres you need for conventional agriculture, you need 3 for organic. But also, it's worse than that, because you still have to plough the fields, because burying the weeds is an organic technique, you have to use diesel. And you believe it or not, you use just as much diesel to plough an organic field as you do a non-organic field. So that's 30% or 50% more diesel used. So actually, if you work out the energy balance for organic food and conventional food, there's very little difference. You do have, admittedly, the saving on making of ammonia and ammonium nitrate, but basically organic farming needs a much bigger area than conventional farming. So my message to you today, and my rant today, is let's forget about organic farming. Let's do proper farming, conventional farming, in the sense that we maximise production off certain areas, and let's return the other areas that we don't need to wildlife. And if you look up at the Black Mountains and on the Sugarloaf or whatever, you'll see large areas there covered in bracken, grazing sheep. You never get any really food value off the mountain. It's such a wide area for minute production. What we ought to be doing is shutting off areas so that we can have biodiversity and bees and heather and wild number of plants to live on, and we ought to be intensively using the farmland we can use. So if you're thinking of going organic, don't, and if you already have done, come back. Thank you.